the green line right here on Rapid Television. We had an explosive conversation last week, basically talking about, the involvement of youths in agriculture. The number is quite declining. What can we do? Our guest was gracious enough to offer us some solutions that we as individuals and the government as well can deploy in making sure we take more people back to the farmland. Today, we're talking about Nigerian sector and a particular industry that can solve most of the problems we will be discussing here on the show. Nigeria's agriculture sector has been in the news, and I would honestly say for some wrong reasons. Collapsing commodity exports, farmers abandoning their fields, intervention funds that never arrive. But there's an institution whose entire mandate is to change that story, to put money in farmers' hands and to build the financial infrastructure that agriculture needs to thrive. The Bank of Agriculture. It has a new leadership, at least since he got in office, we haven't gotten to speak. New programs and a renewed mandate. And so to that effect, I'm joined today by its Managing Director and CEO, Mr. Sotinrin. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's good to have you join us.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
All right. Let's go to the basics. First, I see that you are from the private sector.
Correct.
SAO Group, SAO Capital, raising over $750 billion in development finance. Quite a huge profile there. So what made you say yes to this role and what did you walk into?
Thank you. I'd say two things. One, love for country and love for the sector. But most importantly is, love for the vision of the captain of the ship who's steering in the right direction, President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. Yes, I was in the private sector. I think I paid my dues in the private sector. Okay. I would say at last count, we had maybe over 30,000 hectares under cultivation where we employ over 3,000 people. Farming oil palm and cocoa. We have one of the 5 left cocoa processing plants in country where we also process cocoa to derivatives and we export cocoa. Right. And a switch from banking to agriculture is very fulfilling for me. Bit of background in terms of banking, worked at Deutsche Bank, a German bank in England, in the city of London. And I've also, done all the old, banking with Royal Bank of Scotland, where I worked in Guernsey, Jersey, Gibraltar, and Isle of Man. Mm-hmm. So, a combination of that makes it almost sort of, I don't want to say the right fit for to be the chief servant of the Bank of Agriculture, but to be honest with you, I don't see it as an unsurmountable task to steer the ship in the right direction. The problem we've had in the past has been negligent in the agriculture sector financing, right, where you do not understand the critical role that the Bank of Agriculture play within the sector. Having a retail DFI status and catalyzing investment and capital into that sector, or using it as a vehicle to unlock more capital, from international partners or financiers for the sector. And this whole new craze of climate finance. There's so much we can do, because if you look at mitigation programs under the climate change, I'd call it a sector now. It's usually agriculture, climate resilient agriculture. How do you start to, claim back degraded forest land, turn it into agroforestry? I mean, so many things around there. But, all these sort of things are I'd say, challenges turn to opportunities within the sector, which avails us through technology opportunity to feed ourselves, achieve food sovereignty, and be able to export food for revenues in country, foreign exchange. So, here we are.
All right. Now, you've been in the seat for over a year now.
Correct.
And I'd like to hear what your honest assessment is regarding what is fixed, what needs urgent fixing, what's working, what isn't working. Because as you know, this is such an important sector when it comes to agriculture, funding, financing for these farmers. So let's hear you talk about that.
So mixed feelings, right? And, you know, a lot of things can get easily, you know, miscommunicated to the public. First thing first is the government involvement in the sector or in financing the sector. We've had too many ups and downs. Initially, you know, there were complaints about, you know, very high cost of food. Now, farmers are complaining that, you know, food is too cheap, and, you know, that sort of imbalance creates almost like a boha within the sector, right? On the demand and on the supply side. And the administration, I hate to say myself because I'm just a tool. I'm just, you know, the head of one of the organizations, you know, being run by government. We've looked at it with our principal, you know, His Excellency the President, and we've tried to come up with, you know, very well thought out strategies, you know, to fix problems within the sector. Number one is, how do we fix productivity in the sector? And everything I'm going to be telling you about the sector, ours is based on financing all those challenges, financing solutions to those challenges. So number one, increasing productivity in the sector means you need to, you know, support seed companies, research institutions to produce better seeds, right? So you're talking from breeder seeds, foundation seeds, and certified seeds. So once you're able to get it right, you increase productivity from 100 to about 500, right? 1 ton per hectare, from grains to maybe 5 to 10 tons per hectare. And this is one step in the right direction. If you're able to add irrigation to it, and they're able to farm 3 times a year, it means they can do 3 cropping cycles. If they get 5 tons, that's 15 tons times or multiplied by the, you know, the revenues you can get from a ton. You're talking the farmer gets moved out of multidimensional poverty. So once you fix that productivity issue, then you go to, you know, market making, I would say, challenges we have in the sector, which the imbalance I told you about, import parity is about 30%. How do we start to fix that? You want the situation where the grain millers, you know, the FMCG company who produces animal feed, who produces the food that we eat, conflicts and all that, from maize, you want them to have not too cheap, not too expensive feedstock, which is maize, right? So you want to on-lend to the sector, get, you know, yields up, and ensure that, you know, you can balance it by aggregating commodities to sell to them, using the exchanges where you have warehouse receipts and you know exactly what's in the exchange or what's in the warehouses. You also want to support the farmer who is on the, you know, supply side to balance this cost of production with, you know, the prices of commodities at the end of the day, because currently there's a disparity. A farmer produces for X amount, he gets minus X, you know, which is currently for maize, for example, case in point, 250,000 naira to 300,000 naira. So the government again has looked at that end of the value chain to say, why don't we give farmers a guaranteed minimum price for the farmers through the Bank of Agriculture? And there's no money thrown away. You're saying you want a pool of money to aggregate grains and give them a top up, right? So that everyone has a, you know, everyone has a fair pricing. Now, when you take these grains, you don't destroy them. You store them in storages, right? By the time the millers are complaining that the prices are getting too expensive, because of law of supply and demand, you can now release those grains into the market for price stabilization, right? Where if it's 500,000, you release the grains to the market that you paid 354, and you release that maybe 400,000. That delta that I've lost, I'll make it back, right? And it can be a revolving program. So that's somewhat the thinking of, you know, Mr. President, which is why we designed this program, to complete the loop within the ecosystem. Okay,
because I was actually going to ask you, this Bank of Agriculture has existed since 1972 or what? Right. But you still hear many Nigerian farmers tell you about the fact that they've never accessed even a single naira from the Bank of Agriculture. But you seem like you have all of this drawn out. Is it already in motion, or It's just thoughts in paper yet, not yet implemented.
There's nothing that I've told you about that is not currently being implemented in country right now. Go through, media platforms, you'd hear jingles of, Bank of Agriculture giving guaranteed minimum price to not some farmers, every farmer in country who's produced grain. Obviously, we can intervene in every crop, right? If you say you planted avocados, for example, sorry, I can't help you.
Why?
But, typical staple crops, because you're not losing money. It's an exportable commodity. You get foreign exchange for it.
Okay.
But we're talking about, people complain about importing to the country of grains, which is why the price have crashed. I disagree with that because only 250,000 tons of grains was imported into the country. Nigeria consumes over 10 million tons of grains. So I believe it's so many other things that I don't know what I should be talking about it here. People ordering, for to arbitrage, meaning they're trying to wait for the prices to go up and all those sort of things. By the time they got to know the government has imported grains into the country based on complaints of not enough grains for production, people decided to release the grains into the market, and obviously when there's too much supply, demand will reduce and the prices organically will just crash. So this is what has really happened. So we are saying, not a problem. We stand in the gap for you to offtake everything from you, right? And we have the funds to offtake from you. However, we're also promising you that if you take our money to go back to the farm to farm maize, by the time you're harvesting, if there's a import, parity, disparity, we can offtake from you again. But if there's no issues and the prices are where they should be, then we keep our money. We don't need to, offtake from any farmer at a guaranteed minimum price. We can still offtake because we want a stabilized market. But we don't need to now start to, lose money, which has to do with you paying maybe 10 or 15% extra for you to have, better pricing.
All right. Now, from my introduction, I spoke about how the conversation I had last week was basically about young people participating in agriculture and how there's being like a reasonable and noticeable decline as well. I understand that you had the Renewed Hope Agricultural Mechanization Program that the President has set in motion, which is basically to provide mechanized, items, tractors, machines for young people. Now, the model is pay-as-you-go, the pay-as-you-go leasing model, which says that you need a 25% down payment before you have access to pay, as you go. Now, realistically speaking, looking at the income of many young people in Nigeria, do you think that this is a model that will work in solving the problem? Because how many young people are able to pay? Let's say these tractors are like 900 million or however it's been rated. How many Nigerians realistically, young Nigerians, can afford to do a 25% down payment to access this?
Okay, it's a three-pronged approach. Number one, the president is paid 50% of the cost of the tractor for this potential mechanization service providers or the youth you talk about. So we're doing a youth and we're doing a women's scheme. Now, these tractors are high capacity tractors, very strong and durable. And then 2,000 in number. We've sold a lot of it under this tractorization program, this national mechanization program. I think we have over 1,200 working on the fields right now. We still have some left. What we've done so far is to make it a very fluid model, where initially we advertised for mechanization service providers, and I'll come to the reason why we're not just giving it to individuals.
Okay.
We are focused on service providers. We advertised, we got 115,000 applications from different companies. And out of that, we were able to shortlist 15,000 companies who qualified based on the criteria of selection. Now, for these 15,000 that applied, we only have 2,000 tractors. And some would, ask for 10, some would ask for 5 and all that. And in all fairness, we believe the demand outweighs, what we have currently. So what we've been able to do is to categorize them in different, sections. One, this pay as you earn program you talk about, where we take, the best of the best companies who provide the services by youths, and we try to, simplify the model for them or simplify the criteria for them. And we've seen that the uptake was quite, low. I say reasonable, but in my own perspective, quite low. So what we've done is to now engage the state government to say, why don't you pre-finance this for your state? And we take these tractors into a hub model where the youths within your state who are into service provision can now take on this. Since you've paid us, because we're a bank, we can't lose money, right? Because we need to get that money to buy more tractors for other service providers. You call them farmers, I say service provider, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And so a lot of states have, taken this as a model that works, but we say on one condition. This subsidy or subsidized tractors on one condition. We have to manage it for you. Obviously, we're a bank. We're not going to be managing tractors physically, meaning you have to go through a process of, having a hub where the tractors can stay. They can, we have a digital platform where you can book for, a tractorization service, and we vet all the youth you bring. We empower them. I think per hub, we employ about 20 people per hub. People driving tractor, people, servicing tractor, people selling inputs, people, provide agronomy services and all that. So within that hub, the youth can actually now start to make money. Now, from that, you're not stressing them in terms of, the upfront capital that they need to bring. And we have tons of state governments who have done that. Jigawa State, 100 tractors. Plateau State, 100 tractors. Kebbi, I think about 40. Akwa Ibom, Cross River. Many states, we don't even have enough tractors. So for us, we believe this program will mean that we can now mechanize 1.2 million hectares of land and support 1.2 million farmers. And you think, how can 2,000 tractors do that? So rule of thumb, because the high capacity tractors, 600 hectares is meant to be mechanized by one tractor, right? Regardless of, the location, because we have 4-wheel drives, we have 2-wheel drives, we have 81 horsepower, 90 horsepower. And now, if we say we want to support 1.2 million farmers, 2,000 tractors, mechanizing each farmer's land per day will mean you do 600 hectares per day times 2,000 tractors, 1.2 million hectares of land. If we're able to give the ones we finance, hybrid seeds that can give them up to 5 tons, you just do the multiplication of 5 tons times 1.2 million hectares. That's 6 million tons of fresh grains coming into the market.
Fantastic.
Versus what Nigerians believe, or what I believe you have told me, which is give the tractors to 2,000 farmers. They give the tractors to 2,000 farmers. Most farmers own 1 to 2 hectares. You can ask around. Those tractors can mechanize those on that 2 hectares in literally 2 hours. Then what? Correct. So 2,000 tractors to 2,000 farmers versus 2,000 tractors to 2,000 mechanization service providers who are supported and midwife all the way to support 1.2 million farmers producing food on 1.2 million hectares of land. The disparity is huge. And this is the thought process of this administration.
Okay, this sounds really fantastic, right? But I'd ask about the accessibility of these tractors to these farmers, because service providers, there's a hub, farmers who are in need of these tractors can come to the hub, get the tractors, and then do whatever they need. What is the accessibility rate? Because if you cut down the cost by the state governments now helping to pre-finance the tractors, right? If you cut down that cost, there might be also a surge in the price when it comes to the hubs. So do you get to regulate how much? Do they pay when they get to the hubs to use the tractors? How is this model? How does it work?
Again, it's a very fluid model. And we're not saying we're perfect in any way. Don't forget, this bank has been existing for 55 years. And it's had its own history. I call it, BOA and BOA 2.0. We're not running BOA 2.0 in the past year that, I've been hired with the executive directors to run the bank. And what we're trying to do is what we believe works for our customers who are the farmers. So we're not dumping programs on them or, different iteration or strategy on them. We're saying what is working for you. So we're not even mandating the farmers to pay cash for services, right? Because we provide input financing for the farmers, we know you're going to make money at the end of the day. You're going to get bags of maize, bags of rice, paddy, bags of, sorghum or millet. You can even pay through your bags because there's that option. Value. Of course, there's that option. For everything we're doing, for our irrigation program, for our mechanization program, even for the financing program, because I give you input, you produce, because I've helped you through the process with extension services, M&E, midwife in the process all the way to harvest, and I'm sure you can get 5 tons per hectare. By the time you're paying back my principal plus 9% interest, which is again subsidized by government, you're giving me less than 2 tons, and that pays my loan, and it leaves you with a lot of money, which I would also help you because I get everything from you and I pay you back your money. So it helps you move socioeconomic status of these farmers to the next level. You improve their livelihood. You also put a lot of money in their hands to the point where the entire extended family are also benefiting from it, and you solve problems of multidimensional poverty. You solve problems of insecurity in country because they don't need to do banditry. They're already making money from the works of their hands.
This sounds very fantastic, I must say. But, one concern a lot of Nigerians will have is your ability to translate all of this into real life problem solving, agencies or hubs, or as you call it. So it will take me to my next question. You signed an MOU with Brazil's ABGF in August 2025, and it was basically for large-scale agri-project. You also signed another MOU with BNDES on seed technology and agri-equipment financing. These are very big moves, right? So, but can you tell us what has actually landed on the ground from these agreements so far? Remember, the key word is how does this translate into improving the life of the farmers?
So, everything I'm telling you, they're not strategy documents.
Okay.
These are things we're practicing on the field. The tractors are not imaginary tractors coming from Belarus or Brazil.
Yeah.
They are on ground. They've been dispatched to, different hubs and different zones, and they're being used on those in those agriculture clusters currently. The ones that the state government has bought, all these things about commissioning and all that, and we're saying to them, it doesn't matter how long it takes for you to commission these tractors. We're taking them off of you and we're putting them into good use. So most of the tractors are working currently. As you know, the rains are upon us. And when there's rain, then agriculture has to happen. And we're following the sequence of, the climatic condition in different states. States are first plant maize, Kaduna and co, majorly North Central and some part of Northwest. Then we follow, rice production, that's around July. Then we follow, the crops. So mechanization, started from 2 months ago in the Southwest, where we still practice agriculture, but maybe 10 to 15% of, cropping in Nigeria happens in the Southwest. Now that, the rains are in the North, we're now following, those seasons. And we're believing that we'll have, bounty harvest based on all the investments that we put into primary production. Now, in terms of all the agreements that we've signed, yes, these are agreements between large organizations owned by government as well. ABGF is the Guarantee Fund of Brazil. BND is the Development Bank of Brazil. Things don't happen instantly with those organizations because it's almost like a G to G to B, government to government to business, and we're fine tuning things on our part, they're fine-tuning things on their part. So it starts with what are the programs and projects, and what are the details of the project that you want us to give you guarantees on. In terms of the agreement we signed with BNDES, for you to bring even seeds into the country, there's so many protocols. Nigeria National Agriculture Seed Council has to vet. You have the National Quarantine Service, and all the other government agencies. They need to test the seeds. What are the origin? Are they suitable for soil? So many things that needs to be done. So all those sort of things they're ongoing. I can't tell you we're there yet, but when we're there, you get to know.
Okay. Now, if a smallholder farmer is watching this program right now, right? Because, like I said, the major issue with a lot of farmers will be that we've not been able to access funding when it comes to Bank of Agriculture. Right now, what can you tell them, or step-by-step basis, if you can, how can you tell them to access funding from BOA?
So BOA has simplified its processes now. Our credit management system, everything is digitized. Opening bank accounts is super simple. You can literally open on your phone. It takes you 3-4 minutes.
With BOA?
Correct. And that's now been in 55 years. issuing cards. Once you open an account, they'll tell you when your card is going to be ready. You can actually have your own debit card, a BOA debit card. Never have one in the history of the country. And also to get services from BOA is very nimble and very easy now. What I can say is BOA has the mandate to finance every farmer in country, but BOA doesn't have the capability to finance 70 million farmers in Nigeria. Because even if you say rule of thumb, you need ₦1 million per hectare, and let's assume every farmer had an hectare, you're talking about, you need 70 trillion. The entire budget of Nigeria is about 58 trillion. Our collections are less than 15 trillion. And even our borrowings as well, if you add it together, we barely can meet 50% of, our needs in country. So you can't give 50% of your monies to the Bank of Agriculture. But a chunk of the monies from government is going to Bank of Agriculture because the president believes in, food sovereignty and believes in, supporting the smallholder farmers to increase their socioeconomic status. Because once you're able to produce food, you make money from that. Making money from that means you can do other things, send your kids to school, repair your roof, buy, better mobility and all those sort of things. So for farmers in the Bank of Agriculture, we can promise two things. One, we'll go financing to finance as many farmers as we can. We're hoping to achieve 2 million farmers with the funds we have. We have other sister programs run by, our parent ministry, Ministry of Agriculture, under the Minister of Agriculture, Senator Abu Kiari, where we are also supporting other programs like the NAGS, JICA and other programs who are on lending to smallholder farmers. We've also signed a partnership to raise up to $1 billion with AfriExim to also, show up the funding for supporting smallholder farmers. Because we believe if we design all this model and we don't get it right, we would never achieve food sovereignty in country. But all the models that we've designed, if we have the right funding and we get it right, it becomes, cyclical. It becomes a revolving facility for smallholder farmers to be funded through farm aggregation companies. They produce, we aggregate from them, and we sell into the market. So that's somewhat, what we're looking to achieve for now. Once we're able to turn it into, like a mainstay, then we can focus on other aspects of agriculture. How do we open up commercial farms? How do we focus on tree crops? How do we increase production of, oil palm, cocoa, cashew, coffee, and rubber in country? Because these are massive revenue earners in country there. If you open up, say for example, we're working on 1 million hectares of land, and you're generating almost $6,000 per hectare through, on the average, you're talking $6 billion of revenue, of new revenues to the country year in, year out on an annual basis.
All right. Now, conclusively, I like your admittance of the fact that Bank of Agriculture is not yet perfect. We're trying to do this, we're trying to do that. Some of them are actually in motion right now. So for a farmer who sees where you are right now, what would you expect them to hear or be able to say about Bank of Agriculture in the next 3 years?
Three things. Working on our 3 hours is 3 hours. One is restructure, one is recapitalization, and the last is repositioning. We want to be able to say that, all these three things have been achieved: a well-restructured bank, a well-capitalized bank, and a well-repositioned bank to serve its customers, which is 70 million, farming population in Nigeria. Two things the farmers are enjoying from us. Number one is that impede financing we're doing when we're financing most farmers in Nigeria. And number two is that guaranteed minimum price, which means that at the end of the day, whatever you farm, as long as they're staple crops, we are able to buy it off of you. We are the last buyers of resort for the sector. So once we're able to achieve these two things, I think we'll achieve a stable, food market and food systems, having solved problems of, market linkage and market development within the agriculture sector.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ayo, for your contribution here on the Green Line. I mean, it's been fantastic knowing what you're doing in the Bank of Agriculture. And we're waiting to see what 3 years will look like for BOA, rather.
Thank you.
All right, guys. We have been speaking to Mr. Ayo, Sotinrin. He's the MD CEO of Bank of Agriculture. And of course, they say curiosity kills a cat, but I guess this time it didn't. It saved us because now we have more knowledge regarding how to access funds when it comes to agriculture. I hope you had a fantastic time on the show this morning. My name is Martha Alu, and just to remind you, you can visit all our social media platforms on Facebook, on Instagram, on X. We are pretty much active there. It is at RapidTV. On YouTube, you most definitely can send the link to your farmer friends just so they know what's going on in the Bank of Agriculture. It is at official RapidTV, and www.rbnradiotv.com allows you to connect with us from anywhere in the world. Once again, my name is Martha Alu, and I will see you next week.